Hello and welcome to the 97th episode of Fur, Fins, and Feathers. Today we have two past guests who are reappearing on our show. Eric Letendre of your dog training center in Westport, Massachusetts.
Correct.
Good to see you again.
Nice seeing you, Brian.
And Terry Cripps, who was recently on our show,
Yep.
the Fairhaven Animal Control Officer.
Yes.
And both of you are going to share some very important information about caring for rehoming shelter dogs.
Correct.
Eric, start.
Okay. So you can see that this little guy, I just sitting here.
Who is baring his teeth.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's his name again, Terry?
Chompy.
Chompy.
He's given that name for a reason,
I was
I
going
guess.
to say, what a perfect name, right? So Chompy, you can see Chompy has a real problem with anybody that comes within Terry's kind of area, right? Even me just sitting here. Well, I'm not a direct threat to him, but if I just raise my hand, look, it triggers him to become aggressive. So Chompy's got some issues before he can really be rehomed, right? And if you want to just tell a little bit more about Chompy.
Yep. Typical of a lot of Chihuahuas, Pomeranians. The biggest problem I think people do is they isolate them. They keep them in an apartment. They pee pad trained, and I always compare pee pads to diapers. Pee pads are a good training tool, but you don't want to keep using them. And like you don't want a child in diapers at 5 years old. Correct. And a lot of people it's the path of least resistance. They isolate them from other people. You get a lot of small families, maybe one or two people that will get a Chihuahua and completely isolate them in the apartment so they don't see other people, so they don't know how to react to other people, so they see other people as a threat, which, as you can see, he's looking at you right now like that. But when he was first surrendered to us, he's 7 years old, unneutered, and which is a bad combination. And you can see I can pretty much do anything I want to him. He sat on my lap the whole way here, but he got used to me, and now unfortunately they attach themselves to Dad, because I run the shelter, so I'm there all the time. So he sees me as someone that's a comfort zone for him, and he sees Eric, and he sees everybody that comes near, especially my lap, that is a threat because he hasn't been socialized.
Correct.
And I think Eric can tell you socialization.
Terry, may I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Was he properly trained as a pup?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I can tell you, running a shelter, 9 months to a year and a half, that's about the age I get dogs because they see a puppy, they see him on Craigslist, they see him at a breeder, they fall in love with a puppy. Mm-hmm. Oh, I have to have that puppy. We'll take the path of least resistance. I don't want him to bite anybody, so I'm going to keep him isolated from anybody but the family. They don't neuter them. They get a year and a half, and the number one reason why dogs are surrendered to a shelter is behavioral problems.
Correct.
Behavioral problems, and they get so bad, they start nipping people. Nipping, biting, same thing to me. But a lot of people, oh no, it's a nip, not a bite. Did he open his mouth? Did he close his mouth on you? That's a bite. But they take the path of least resistance. Again, let's surrender them. Surrender them to a shelter is not my problem anymore. It's Terry and his staff's problem. And
hand over the relinquishing fee and send the dog on its way.
And unfortunately, there are a lot of shelters out there who would also take the path of least resistance. That's not what we do at Fairhaven. We will work with them, and you can tell them, I've already got them on my lap. I can get them on other people's laps too, but I just had them neutered not even 2 weeks ago. And a lot of times when not a lot of times, when the dog gets neutered, their testosterone level spikes for about 2 weeks. So he was just neutered about 2 weeks ago, so his testosterone is starting to leave his body, and he's going to become more trainable. But it's socialization. Him just sitting here, he sees Eric as a threat, but now he's sitting there thinking, maybe Eric's not a threat. He's not doing anything to me, so he's more calm and at ease.
Yeah.
Eric, how should a dog like this be trained?
Well, let me back up for a second. So what Terry said was right on the money when he said that the dog is under-socialized.
Yes.
So the big problem that you see with puppies is that people get puppies and then they isolate them, like Terry was saying, and they don't expose them to a lot of different things. Because really, it doesn't look like it, but what's going on is that there's a lot of fear in this little guy. And what he's learned is he's learned to use that behavior as a strategy. You see, he doesn't want me going in there and touching him. And so what he does is he's learned that if he growls at me, one of two things is going to happen. So he growls at me. What's any sane person going to do when a dog growls at him? They're going to back away, right?
They're going to back off.
Dog starts growling at me. Whoops, I don't want anything to do with that dog. Okay, now if I don't back away, what's the owner going to do? They're going to take the dog out of the situation. You see, so this guy has learned anytime I growl, one of two things is going to happen. They're going to move away or I'm going to get taken out of the situation. You see? And so now it's a strategy. I don't like this guy. I don't like the way this guy looks. I'm going to growl at him. Guy's going to go away. Problem solved. You see? So that's what you got going on with a little guy like this, is that it's become a strategy. So now what we have to do is we have to teach this little guy, right? Now look at him, right? I just go like this, and I can trigger his aggression. Right? I'm not doing anything.
You punctured his
right. I just
finger
go like this.
in his teeth.
Right. And he's ready to go.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
He's ready to.
He would bite.
Right. Exactly. He would bite me. And that's because, again, little dogs like Chihuahuas and Pomeranians, like you're saying, they're always saved. Right. They're always picked up. And it's because, especially when they're puppies, they're so cute. But what you have to do with a dog like this is that you have to understand this is no different than any other dog out there. The programming is all the same, right? And what are all dogs when you boil it all down? What are they all? They're all domestic wolves.
Of course.
Right? And what are wolves? Predatory animals. How do predatory animals resolve conflict? Aggression. You see, this to him is a conflict. Me just going like this, right? That's a conflict in his eyes. He doesn't want me near him. So he's giving me all the warning signals. Dude, I don't like you. I don't want you near me. Back up. And if you don't back up, I'm going to resolve this problem by biting you. So what we have to do is we have to train this little guy and say, oh, that's not how you resolve conflict. Okay? And we have to help him understand that people coming up to him is not a dangerous thing. It's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. And he may have had some bad experiences in the past too.
Yeah.
He might have done that. What's that?
Don't know.
Right. So he might have done that.
Hey.
And somebody might have nailed him.
Hey.
Right?
But every dog's natural instinct is to become the alpha.
Right.
Of course.
This dog has trained his previous owners to, I do this, you will do this. And it's not supposed to be the case. You got to let them know I'm the alpha. I decide who's going to come into my home.
This dog became the boss of his family.
100%.
The boss of the family. You won't let that person's not coming in my house. That person's not coming in my room. That person's not coming near my owner. And he's become the alpha. And I always said a Chihuahua, if Chihuahuas are 100 pounds, they'd be the most feared animal in the world. But right now he's sitting there, sees me as the owner, but he's here. I'm going to protect this guy. And I decide who comes near me. And more importantly, he decides who comes near the dog or me.
Right. And he don't want me near him.
So Eric, how do you resolve this issue?
Well, so the first thing is that you have to, right, think about what the underlying problem is. Under-socialized. Probably had some bad experiences, right? So now what we have to do is we have to start dealing with the trigger. So this is a trigger, right? Just going like this, he starts to think about, I want to get at this guy. So a couple things we have to do is we have to take him out of that situation. Okay, we have to take him out of that situation, and we have to start conditioning him and teaching him that not everything's a threat in your life. Okay, and that's not much I can do right here because I have to stay seated. But if I was working with this guy, one of the first things that I'd have to do with him is I'd have to put a muzzle on him. I'd have to put a muzzle on him to keep me safe, right? Because right now, if I try to do anything to him, I'm going to get bit. I don't like getting bit. I've been doing this a long time.
You're not that guy Caesar on the thing that just puts his hand down and gets bit.
Yeah, I have a different approach than Caesar.
Yeah.
Not that I'm knocking Caesar. I mean, he's helped out a lot of people.
He gets results.
But
Do you know if this dog was owned locally?
Locally, yes, I do know that, but I'm not sure where. But a lot of times, I got this dog from another shelter because they were overrun. And we have a good relationship with those shelters. Most of the times, even when dogs are surrendered, people are going to tell you half the truth. They want to get out of that door. They want to leave the dog and go. I've had dogs where it was so obvious that the dog belonged to them, but they said, "Oh, it's a stray. I just found the dog." That has happened to me so many times. So many times they go, and you could tell it was their dog. And the dog's petrified of me, but in the time that they found the dog 2 blocks away from the shelter, yeah, they developed a bond, and like, that didn't happen. You know, and unfortunately, a lot of people, they have a problem, they just want to dump the problem on the doorstep of the shelter and leave.
Right.
I've known so many people who have acquired animals from down south and everything, and they buy the dog, and it ends up, they said, this isn't what I really wanted, and off to the shelter. And it becomes your problem.
Yep. Yep. Comes our problem.
So, Eric, tell me about this little guy. How would you rehabilitate him?
Well, like I said, first thing I'd have to try to, if I was going to do anything with him, I'd have to put a muzzle on him.
Okay.
Then I have to take him out of the situation, and then I have to start conditioning him and teaching him that there's no need to act like this. So we'd have to do some conditioning and basically teaching him that that kind of response is unacceptable. And it's not something that would happen overnight. It's something that would take some time. And a lot of times when you have a super aggressive dog like this, you have to work with the owner and the dog. And sometimes the owner doesn't really want to do what's required, believe it or not.
Path of least resistance.
Yeah, exactly. Well, a lot of these guys, what do the owner do? They spoil them, right?
Yep.
And so now you got to tell the owner, listen, you got to make some changes in your life in order to help your dog. And they don't want to make those changes. You see? So that's where it becomes kind of a sticky point, is when the owner doesn't want to make the changes. Like you were saying earlier, if this dog was pee pad trained, and you tell the owner, we got to get rid of that pee pad. Oh, I don't want to get rid of that pee pad. I like using the pee pad.
It's too cold outside.
It's too cold outside. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that, right? And that's where it becomes a real issue, is because you have to have the owner on board. And so a lot of times we're not successful with little guys like this because the owner won't make the changes that they need to make.
They revert back
Exactly.
to their old ways.
Exactly.
Training the owner is much more difficult than training the dog, because the owners always go back to what they know.
Exactly.
And you could go to a dog trainer and pay them for 20 classes, but if you're going to give up at the end,
Right.
why even do it?
Or not make the changes that
Yeah.
you need to make.
Yeah.
Eric, what type of dog, of owner would work well with this type of situation?
What type of owner?
Yeah, what type of owner?
I guess an owner that takes good directions.
I wouldn't start with young children. Definitely.
That's what I'm getting at.
A little
you're going that
child,
direction,
little
yeah.
child would not do well with a situation like this.
No.
Because the child, that they're still being taught themselves, and they wouldn't know boundaries. They would when I was walking this dog in, there was 2 children outside. Oh, look at the cute dog! Look at the cute dog! And I said, stay away from the dog. Stay away from the dog. Don't ever approach anybody's dog, because you never know.
You know that little island in New Bedford Harbor there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That house?
Yeah.
Where they live by themselves?
Yeah.
That'd be a good owner.
But unfortunately, this dog's 7 years old.
Yeah.
Old dogs, new tricks. The time to train this dog was when he was 6 months old.
Yeah.
And say, constantly bringing the dog around other people, other dogs. We've adopted dogs that Eric has worked with, that we had them socialized. We had them going around every volunteer I had, anybody that came in to see the dog. And what do? As soon as they get out, oh, this is a bigger dog. The bigger dog. I don't want him to bite anybody, so I'm going to isolate him. I'm going to isolate him. Just me and the immediate family get to see this dog, and then they can't go on vacation. They can't bring him to doggy daycare. They can't bring him to a boarding. And I've seen that happen, a dozen times, where the dog was great when he left, and I'm afraid something might happen. So let's isolate him take him out of situations like this dog. Looking at strangers who wants to bite him, I guarantee you the owner was probably like, oh, it's okay, petting the dog, telling him, hey, you did a good job right there.
Right.
So they learned, stranger comes, show my teeth, try and bite them, owner's happy, I'm happy.
And the rest of the people are petrified.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And eventually the dog will bite somebody.
Oh, he's going to bite somebody.
Eventually the dog will. You can't take a
So,
dog.
Eric, is this a lifer at the shelter?
No, I think you could do some training with him. I think you could find him in the right home. Definitely, like Terry was saying, I wouldn't put him in anywhere near kids or anything like that. Probably an older.
Maybe with an adult family?
Yeah, definitely an adult family. Maybe somebody who's retired, who wants a good companion, doesn't have a whole lot of company, and who's going to do some training with them. And even after the training, might still have some problems.
Yeah, even right now, look at him. Eric's not paying attention to him. not do any hand movements. Like we had a cattle dog once, and they tried to, again, year-and-a-half-old cattle dog, unneutered. They tried to zap him to death with the shock collar. And any hand move, I went like this, the dog would immediately go to the ground in the fetal position, because any hand movement, they thought, I'm going to get zapped here. Get zapped here, and you have to condition them. You have to condition them.
Are a lot of dogs, Terry, coming from other areas to our area to be rehomed?
Believe it or not, we do get a lot of when people get dogs from down south. They see a picture of a dog online.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to have that dog. I'm gonna, go use this service. The dog's gonna be shipped up from North Carolina, Texas, Tennessee. They don't know anything about that dog. They don't know any of the behaviors that dog already has. They ship them up. They have them for a couple of months. Again, they don't get training. Training is a huge part of it. If you can do it yourself, hey, do it yourself. But if you don't, leave it to a professional like Eric. Bring them to training. Get them socialized. And Eric will tell you, if maybe the first class of dogs never been socialized, yeah, be alone with just Eric, the dog, and the owner. But eventually, you have to bring them around other dogs and other people, because there's a whole world out there. You can't walk your dog in a park if it's dog aggressive, and it's going to be people aggressive. Eventually, that dog will get to somebody, and you have to take preventative measures, which is training.
I agree.
So there is hope for this little guy.
Oh yeah. I mean, the dog, how he's acting toward Eric, he acted toward me the first day I had him. But he saw me every day. I'm the guy that's coming in and bringing him food every morning. I'm the guy that's walking him outside. He likes me now. He's working on our volunteers. He likes some of them, tolerates some of them, but we're just, I'm slowly, at the shelters is a good example. He gets to see different people all the time. People are always coming in, looking at dogs. He's being exposed to other people, and he's like, hey, maybe the other people aren't trying to hurt me. And really, if I'm in a kennel, I'm not here to protect anybody. I'm just, more scared. He's already getting more at ease around us, especially when when he's not seeing any hand movement or anything. And hand movement could have meant that he was abused at one point.
That's what I was thinking.
Who knows?
Somebody who probably went to pet him, and maybe he got a little nervous.
So it's difficult to know the dog's history.
Can't know it. You can't know it.
You don't.
Because most of the time, like I said, people will surrender a dog. They're not going to be upfront about everything. They just want to sign whatever I have to sign, pay what I have to pay, and I'm leaving. This is your problem now. And sometimes they just let them go.
Eric, what about some success stories? We've talked in the past, but refresh my memory.
Yeah, I mean, we've had plenty of dogs come from Fairhaven that we've helped turn around, train. Trying to think who the most recent one is. Who did you send me recently?
I send you a lot.
Yeah, so we've had dogs come in. Big problem with a lot of dogs when they come in. They don't like to walk on leash. They run away when they get a chance. Some are a little bit nippy or jumping, and so our program a lot of times helps with all those problems. And we get a lot from Fairhaven, Dartmouth, sometimes Swansea. They send us dogs from a lot of the local shelters. And we've had pretty good success if you look at our reviews and stuff like that online. So this guy, I'm hoping he gets adopted. I hope he comes to us for training, because I really think we can turn this little guy around.
And he would become a keeper.
There you go.
Yep. I always tell a lot of people that there are a lot of dog trainers out there. There's no certification in dog training.
Correct.
And a lot of people think, oh, he's certified dog trainer. You got certified by the person you paid to certify you.
Right.
And there's no state certification on dog grooming or dog training.
Right.
Not to say that they're all bad out there. There are some trainers out there. The first thing they do, and I've seen them come in and try and work with our dogs. They get the fanny pack and they load it with treats, and they treat. I've had one tell me we had a dog that was kennel aggressive, which means if he's in the kennel, if you approach him, he sees you as a threat, because that barrier's right there. Outside they'll be fine. Inside they're kennel aggressive, and they'll attack the fence trying to get to you. Oh, you just sit there and give them treats. If a dog does a negative behavior and you give them a positive reaction to that, they're going to keep that negative behavior, because they're like, oh, I do this, I get a treat.
Right.
This is a good thing. It's not a good thing. not a good thing. You have to respond negative behavior with a negative response. And negative response does not mean abuse the animal.
Correct.
You know, it could be, you know, the high pressure air thing. I've had a lot of success with that. Eric gave me one of those, and I've used that. It's just a high pressure. It just makes a high pressure and hurts their ears. They don't want that, because their ears are, you know, they can hear a lot better than us. They don't want that, so they go, oh, if I do this, that's going to happen. I don't want to do that. You know, I don't want that to happen to me, so I'll stop that behavior. And we had a dog once a few years back. We've been working with Eric for 3-4 years now, and a jumper. Fortunately, it was a pit bull, and I have nothing against pit bulls. Pit bulls, they're just like any other dog, but like to jump on people, and that immediately turned people off. The high pressure air thing, you just hold it behind you, and the dog was like, whoa. He cured it in 20 minutes. I couldn't get the dog to jump on me, and that dog went on 2 weeks later to live a great life. A great life. And like I said, the biggest thing, training. If a dog is untrained, the easiest thing, bring him to a shelter.
Right. Happens all the time.
Do you have a lot of animals surrendered to the shelters?
Oh yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, in this economy that we have, a lot of people they're surrendering their dogs or cats because, you know, it used to be I'm moving away. I can't, and the new place doesn't allow it. I wouldn't do that. But there are people that, you know, they have to make a choice. But they're having to make a choice because of vet care. Vet care's, the prices of everything's going through the roof. Dog food, there was a shortage of cat food for a while, and you know, people just can't afford to feed their animals, so they have to make a choice. You know, they have to surrender them. I recently had one. It was a smaller dog surrendered. The dog needed to go to the vet, and the person couldn't afford it. So they put the dog's needs above their own, and surrendered. And then we got the dog to the vet and got him.
Now, what happens in that case?
We get him to the vet and get him taken care of, and get him treated. Then we put him up for adoption. And then there's people out there who, you know, can't afford to take care of animals, and it's not cheap. A lot of people think, oh, you just buy a 50-pound bag of Old Roy and you know, every few weeks, and that, no, because if a dog's like people, they're going to need to go to the vet sometime, and if they don't go to the vet, they can get seriously ill. So, and that's, you know, our adoption fees have remained low, you know, because we have a lot of people that make donations to the shelter, and we've been able to keep them low. But you go, like, we're 300, but if you go to like a breeder, you're talking minimum sometimes 3,000, 5,000 for a dog. And if you can afford that, you can afford vet care. But a lot of people, you know, they think the shelters are like they were back in the 70s and 80s. You just walk in, grab a dog, I'm leaving. Okay, you leave. It's not like that anymore. Yeah. You know, we vet people, no pun intended, but we vet people and make sure that they're a suitable home.
I recently met an individual, and I won't name the breed, but he said it was his first litter that he had bred. And he said, I've sold a few puppies, he said, from the litter. And he says, there's a couple of puppies that are available. He said they're $6,500 or $7,500 a piece.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I said, when I was breeding Kerry Blue Terriers from champion stock,
Right.
I said, the most we ever got was $500.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's through the
He
roof.
said, oh, it's not like that anymore.
No.
And unfortunately, when you have dogs that become highly sought after, right now, Frenchies. Everyone wants a Frenchie.
Everyone.
And I've being law enforcement, I have to deal with a lot of situations. And we just had 2 dogs within 2 weeks. A guy walks in with a 3-week-old Frenchie puppy, drops it on the vet's desk that's dying, and takes off. And the reason the dog's dying, because overbred and interbred and inbred. They don't care. They just want that money. This guy, we did research on him. This guy was getting $3,500 for Frenchies. And everybody wants a Frenchie now. Like Dalmatians. Look at Dalmatians. Everyone, 101 Dalmatians. Everyone wanted the Dalmatian. Look at that breed now. That breed, you know, they destroy breeds because they interbreed them and they overbreed them. You know, you can't just...
My friends that are dog judges and Dow breeders, no longer breed. They don't even judge anymore. They gave up.
Wow.
It was that bad.
Yeah.
People, when you have a high demand, they interbreed and overbreed. And a dog can't, every time it goes in heat, can't have a litter.
I get calls for Frenchies all the time.
Right.
Yep, that's the big dog right now. Everyone wants Frenchies, and I deal with dog bites. I deal with dog bites. Any dog bite in Fairhaven I have to deal with. I'm seeing more and more of that breed.
Yeah.
And less and less of the breeds that everybody's afraid of.
Yeah. They're tough little dogs.
Yeah.
Tough.
You can see Chompy's starting to get used to. He's being exposed to different people, and now he's relaxed. He's actually taking a nap. Granted, if Eric put his hand over here, it'd probably be a little different. But he's gonna
keep it over
he's
here.
gonna check you out. He's still there. No problem. Go back to sleep.
What are some other training issues you want to talk about?
Well, I think the big mistake that people make when it comes to training is if you get the puppy young, if you get a dog young as a puppy, 8-10 weeks old, that's when training starts. People think, oh, let me start training at 6 months old or a year old. That's way too late. Way too late.
What about buying from a reputable breeder?
I don't have a problem with that.
I'm sure that you would both have some thoughts about that.
Yeah, I mean.
Me, I see the aftermath of that.
Yeah.
I've a lot of local breeders and that people get the puppy, and the kid, like I said, 9 months to a year and a half. Way too much energy, way too many issues. The dog's starting to do this, starting to do that. Here's the thing. Here's the drop them off at the shelter. But people do that with dogs they get from down south. You don't know what breed you're getting from the ones down south.
Right.
It's the same issue. I mean, I don't recommend breeders because there's 180,000 dogs that are euthanized every year. 180,000. We have enough dogs. So I myself, I don't recommend breeders because there's too many of them out there.
I always recommend that people go to the AKC website and check out if they're seriously looking for a breed.
Yeah.
To go to the AKC website and do some research.
Right.
And read. Go to your facility and check things out.
Absolutely. If you're getting a little older like I am, I don't want a high energy dog that's gonna require, to run 5 miles a day.
You don't want a short-haired pointer?
No, I don't want a short-haired pointer. We actually just had 2 pointers that we got adopted. We adopted out to my new assistant actually. But
Excellent.
they're high energy dog. Even these 2 were 5 and 6 years old.
Still bouncing, right?
Still bouncing off the walls. They have to get that energy out. If you don't get that energy out in something positive, they will find something negative. I just had a dog returned, an Australian cattle dog, and was tearing their house apart.
I was going to say.
Tearing the house apart. Extreme anxiety. And sometimes dogs like that, they don't want to be in a house at all. They want a job. They want a job to go out there and take care of things. And if you don't find something positive, they will use something negative.
I am being told that it's time to wrap up again.
Okay.
We'll have you back another time.
All right, thank
For
you.
another episode of Fur, Fins, and Feathers. But thank you very much for coming back and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And keep educating people. That's important.
I will.
Absolutely. My job is to work myself out of a job. Not going to do it.